Hello everyone, my name is Connor Kotzman and welcome to the Pulse of Spokane. Today, Klaus, the car guy, will sit down with Jack Morris to talk about Porsches. Then, Ethan Pariah, host of our new show My House, My Home, will sit down with Roof Max to discuss roofs. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Starting a digging project? Before you reach for the shovel, you must click callbeforeyoudig.org, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. Protect our buried utilities and click callbeforeyoudig.org.
The world has changed a lot in 50 years, and Kimley Haygood has changed with it. We still provide our customers with the highest level of service, whether it's financing, construction management, property management and maintenance, leasing, or sales. Our team is here to help you make the best decisions with your real estate.
Morning, welcome to the Car Guy. My name's Klaus Kinder. I'm your host this morning. This morning I have a rather interesting fellow by the name of Jack Morris. Jack is kind of hard to describe. You're an icon in the Porsche industry.
I think you're probably the first person that said that.
No, I think you are. I think you're an icon in the Porsche industry, and we're lucky to have you here in the city of Spokane, or close by anyway.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You are kind of the local Porsche guru when it comes to some of the older Porsches, if I'm correct.
Well, I've worked my whole life to get good at it. So,
And your reputation is exactly that. Your reputation is exactly that.
I hope that's what it is.
Oh, I can assure you. Were you spent time in Germany as a kid?
Yeah. Yeah, we were there a couple times.
You weren't born there. You were born here in the States.
Born here in the States. We moved over. I think I was 2 the first time. And then we went again. I think I was 14 the second time. And I stayed there another, 8 or 10 years.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, your father was an opera singer.
Opera singer, yep.
How did that lead to cars?
Well, I mean, I think everyone in the family is wondering, where did this come from? I mean, I can't explain it myself. I've just always loved him, from a very young age. And then, of course, living in Stuttgart, there's all the history, Mercedes, Porsche, the factories there, Bosch is there. I had friends, their dad worked for SWF or worked for Bosch, or, everyone was employed by these companies there. So, it was just kind of everywhere. And, it put me in touch with people that eventually kind of taught me the trade. So,
And I understand you had kind of you didn't serve a real apprenticeship, the German apprenticeship that somebody would serve as example at Porsche or BMW, but you had an older guy who taught you.
Yeah, a guy named Gunter who...
There's a shocker.
Yeah. Unusual name. We became friends, and he had retired. He'd been with Porsche, I think, since 50.
Oh my gosh.
He'd worked with them his entire life. And he was kind of doing side work as a retired guy. We became friends, and he could see I had an aptitude for it. And so he'd pay me cash to come and help him. And after a couple of years, I was building motors, and I really had some great training under him. And finally, one day he said, you really need to decide if I was at the age where you need to figure out what you're going to do.
Right.
And he kind of had a serious kind of a father figure kind of a deal. He talked with me about deciding what I needed to do. And he said, you either need to get an apprenticeship or you need to go home. And I made the tough decision to move back to the States, and I ended up at the University of Washington, and that's a whole other thing. But after I got out of college, I found myself with a business because I was, this is, as we talked about before, back then you could pay for college as you went. So I was working on cars to put myself through school. So I ended up with this business kind of accidentally, um, by the time I got out.
And then you guys moved. You had a shop in Utah or West Side.
Well, yeah, I had a business in Seattle, which became kind of iconic, if I do say myself. It was called Wolfsburg Motor Works, and we specialized in German cars, of course, and became really well known. And uh, you know, uh, Seattle really started to go downhill. I think everyone kind of knows just kind of the livability and trying to do business in Seattle got to be harder and harder. So about this time, my wife was looking at doing a PhD in physics. So
That's impressive.
yeah, so we ended up in Utah, where my brother happens to live, in Salt Lake City. She was going to the University of Utah, and I basically moved my business out there, and we grew it over there in Salt Lake City.
And you guys moved to Spokane.
Yeah, I think it's been 4 years now.
4 years.
Is that about
But
right? Yeah.
you came here, if I understood you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, your wife wanted to start a business here,
Well,
or you guys wanted to get to Spokane, get out of Seattle.
I realized that the culture and us in Salt Lake City, nothing against it, but it wasn't a good fit for us.
Mhm.
And the other thing that was compelling is that my kids' grandparents are here, and they're excellent grandparents. And so I figured, well, I can probably make a living here. So, and my wife certainly can. So we moved here basically for our kids. And,
But I don't think your intent was to actually open another shop.
I thought, well, I'll be lucky if I can work on a couple cars a week, but I mean,
That's changed.
so I made sure I had a big shop on my property, and it's just kind of amazing. Cars are being shipped to me from all over the country now. So again, I'm not.
That doesn't happen to ho-hum mechanics or ho-hum technicians, right? In fact, I got a phone call from you a few weeks ago telling me that there was a 4-cam Porsche motor. Sam, can you bring that thing up? This is one of the rarest Porsche engines ever. I think you'd have to agree to that.
Not a lot of them around,
and
yeah.
perhaps one of the most complicated Porsche engines ever built. Designed by a gentleman by the name of Furman, who, if I understand correctly, was actually a watchmaker by trade.
Well, yeah, I think I know that I've read a lot about him. He's an interesting guy. He one of his theses when he was in engineering school was cam profiles, but then he got into timepieces and doing that kind of thing. And then by the time he was working for Porsche, you can see this kind of thinking in the way this motor's designed.
Yeah.
With all the gears and shafts and
It's all gear driven.
all gear driven, everything kind of synchronized. It's a fascinating thing. There's nothing else like it,
Yeah, and
other
it's-
than a different Porsche motor,
and
like a
yet this-
908 or
Right,
something.
and yet designed in 1952. This thing is
Yeah.
extraordinary. It's just absolutely extraordinary.
It's extraordinary.
I have heard, I did a little research on that motor, and I've heard that competent people, and there's maybe a handful of people, including yourself, that actually can rebuild one of these things. A competent Porsche technician who knows his stuff will take somewhere between 120 to 160 hours to build one of these.
I believe the book time is 160 hours. I could be wrong, but I think that's
extraordinary.
that's what it is.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a fascinating thing, and one of the things that I'm always amazed by from these old things is how many people actually were involved in designing it, and just a handful of people.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays you've got 1,000 engineers working on one motor,
Right.
but literally this small group of people could design these motors. I mean, the same thing with, Metzger,
Right.
not a large group of people designing these really fabulous power plants.
And you
So,
you specialize really in the older air-cooled Porsches, anything primarily 1998 and older.
yeah, I limit it to
Air-cooled cars.
air-cooled
Right,
cars.
right,
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I've worked on some of the newer ones. My passion is the older
Yeah.
air-cooled ones.
And mine too.
So,
We're both in
yeah,
the same book that
yeah.
way. What do you think of the newer stuff? We've had this
Kind of a
discussion.
loaded question. I don't want to get in trouble.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I
Well,
mean, I still love Porsches. Don't get me wrong. I think the new stuff is really, really cool. It's really freaking
It's
expensive.
really expensive. Yeah.
But for me, the older cars just have this thing, this.
Well, it's like, I know we've talked about this. One of the tests when I finish, if I'm doing a major work on a car, is I've got this loop behind my property. It's a 12-mile loop that runs through all the farm fields, and there's everything from elevation changes to some straightaways and a bunch of tight turns. And it's you can be driving a 100 horsepower 356, and it's just a fabulous thing. It is so enjoyable. And in a modern car, it's kind of not.
Yeah.
The cars are designed to go really, really fast, and they do it. It's impressive. But for me, going 200 miles an hour through the desert or something is not as fun as shifting a car, braking, and exiting corners. And to do it well, it's rewarding.
Yeah,
To
I
drive
agree.
these old cars.
I think what we're losing or lacking in today's automobiles, in my personal opinion, and again, I'm very much old school like you. I like the involvement that the old cars gave me. They talked to you. You felt it in your feet. You felt
Oh,
it in
yeah.
your rear end. You
Yeah.
felt it in your hands, and there was just so much more involvement. Today's automobiles, my goodness, they're so incredibly complicated, and they do so many things for a driver nowadays.
Well, I think
that-
a lot of it's about isolating you.
Agreed. Agreed.
It's about kind of protecting you. Whereas in the old cars, it's, when you drive one of these old cars, you can feel the texture of the road through the steering wheel. I
Yeah.
mean, you can tell what the surface is like by how the steering wheel feels. And you don't have that in
Yeah.
modern cars.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So-
And it's not just Porsche. I mean, you can go down to
No,
what
I-
we refer to today as a econo box or something that's terribly inexpensive, and you've got backup cameras and you've got lane change
Oh, yeah.
warnings.
Yeah.
And
And
oh my gosh.
I mean, I buy new cars. I mean, our family has new cars, I mean, I buy a new Toyota probably every 8 years or something, because it won't break, and it's absolutely reliable, and I don't have to worry about it or think about doing maintenance on it or anything. But I don't look forward to driving it. One thing that's annoying is when we go to the store, I can't find it because it looks like,
Everything else out
yeah,
there. It's the same piece of Tupperware.
I'm hitting the key, trying to see which lights are going on, So
I think you agree with me that this progress that we've seen in the automotive market, I'm not sure I can call it progress. I look at today's cars and if you look at today's Porsches anyway, you look at a 911 and all of a sudden you're looking at spending over $200,000 on a car. There's not too many people that can afford this anymore, and what I see
Yeah.
is, you have to be pretty well heeled. Now, there are some younger guys who have made a lot of money and can afford these automobiles, but for the most part, I think we're talking about retired guys, they're in their 60s and their 70s, and
yeah.
they love the car, and I get that, but they don't drive them the way that we did back in the day.
Yeah. I think it's, and I don't know if the expectation from consumers has changed. People talk about that, but sometimes I wonder. I can tell you, I've had some younger guys in the shop, and I've given them rides, and they're just absolutely thrilled. And you're not going that fast.
Yeah.
But it feels so cool. It
Yeah.
sounds cool.
There's
You're
involvement.
You're involved with it, and
agree.
it's
I agree. It's like years ago when I was helping people buy cars. I worked for Well, I started with Porsche. I went to Mercedes-Benz. I worked for BMW. Lynn, like you, worked for BMW years ago. And people would ask me, what's the difference, let's say, between, or what's a better car? A Mercedes-Benz, a Lexus, or a BMW? And I think it comes down to what you expect out of a car. BMW in the past had always built a car that it was about being involved in driving. Mercedes-Benz built something that was perhaps just a little bit more luxurious, right? But there was still some driving involved. And then there were companies like Lexus who built cars that literally cocooned you from driving.
Yeah.
And it's not good or bad. It's just what you
It's
expect
just what
from
people,
an automobile.
what people
exactly.
want.
Exactly.
Yeah. I when I remember seeing the Porsche Boxster concept,
Yes.
and I just thought that was so cool. And it was going to be 4-cylinder, it was going to be affordable. And by the time they came out with it, I mean, it wasn't a 4-cylinder, it wasn't affordable. I would have preferred it to be simpler and even slower. But have it be something that a working 30-year-old could buy.
Yeah.
And it's not, it just has never ended up being that. And so what ends up happening is people buy these things used, and they're not prepared for the thousands of dollars of work that they need.
Yes.
And
that is
I
one thing about
I
today's
see that a
cars, too.
lot.
Yeah, one thing about today's cars too as well. They've become very, very, very complex, and it's getting to the point. What kind of deters me from buying anything new or leasing anything new is when something fails now, and I don't care who builds it. If it's electronic, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And the diagnostic time can be ridiculous. You're paying shop hours of 150 plus an hour at some of these dealerships.
Yeah. Well, in Seattle, it's 200.
Is it really?
I think a lot of them are 190 and the 190s, and some are over 200 now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's why I like the old stuff. I'm really glad you were on the show today. We could go for hours and talk and talk.
Well,
and talk
I've got my opinions that, I mean, everyone's got one, right? But I do have enough seat time that I think it's not just a kind of a off the cuff kind of opinion. It's something I've thought about a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I didn't invite you on the show to advertise for you because I know you don't need any more work.
No.
I've seen
No,
your shop. It is full of really, really cool stuff. You've got great clients who obviously trust you with very expensive machinery.
I've got the best customers ever.
I've noticed that.
I'm so fortunate.
Yeah. And we're glad to have you here in Spokane. I personally, you've saved my bacon a couple of times already. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But
you did pay me.
Well, that's you got to get paid, right?
Right.
There you go. If you own an older vintage Porsche and you need a true expert to look at this car, Jack's the guy. I mean, period. He's just the guy. It may take a while before he gets to you, but worth the wait.
Well, I know people have gone to other places kind of, and I think they're sore, but I'm not blowing anyone off. I got to take the work.
You can only do so
in
much
the
of it.
order
Yeah.
it's scheduled.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
the only
absolutely.
fair way
Absolutely.
to do it. So,
And I think you do it very, very fairly. And again, it's great to have you here in Spokane. When I heard that somebody with some real Porsche experience had moved in here, I'm just kind of going, really? Seriously?
yeah. How did we meet?
I can't remember who it was that told me you had moved to Spokane. I don't recall exactly who it was.
Was it that I worked on a car with some carburetor issues?
Oh,
Was that how we met?
well, I sent you a car, a 68 911,
Yeah.
or told somebody to go see you.
Yeah.
Because I had heard that, and I'll tell you something, that car had been rebuilt by somebody else, and they did a nice job rebuilding it, and it ran okay. But when you got done with that car, it was a completely different automobile. I mean, it was just so sweet.
Well, if you do it a lot,
There you go.
that kind of
Practice makes
a
perfect, either
difference.
perfectly good or perfectly bad, one way or another, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the show. We'll do it again sometime.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Bye.
interdisciplinary education that gets real about the real world, that's the new think. It isn't a tagline, it's a philosophy wrapped in red and white. It is Eastern Washington and you.
Hello, I'm Parker with Hope Neighborhood Coffee Roasters. Hope is a student-led professional coffee production here at the Hunt Settlement. To promote cultural awareness through country of origin studies with coffee farmers worldwide. And third, provide a sustainable funding for the Hunt Settlement education program.
Hi, my name is Roxanne. Please join us to nurture and educate Hutton youth by becoming a monthly coffee subscriber. You can visit us by going to www.huttonsettlement.org and click on the About Us page. Thank you.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. Here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
Welcome to Spokane Talks, where news matters. I'm Kent Adams here today, and I've got a guest that goes back. I knew you from Fox 28 days when we did Craig Chamberlin, when we did some of the safety kinds of things.
Yeah, some public service announcements.
Yeah, that was like 12, 13 years ago.
At least.
Yes.
At least. We've done
You were just a child, and I was middle-aged then, I think.
Yes, it's gone back a few years, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You haven't changed a bit, buddy.
Oh, liar. We're gonna take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk with Craig about some of the issues that have surrounded him as he runs for sheriff and his firing from Ozzie. And we're going to ask some questions to start with from the interview with Ozzie a couple of weeks ago, so you have a chance to respond, which is only fair. And we'll do that and then open it up for discussion, whatever you want to talk about. Baseball's coming back.
Oh, you
all right. Yeah.
Amen.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Larry Myers. Normally at River Ridge Hardware, here at Peters Hardware, where I've been blessed to be able to buy it. Initially started in 1934 by Bill Peters, and I was blessed to be able to purchase that from the Peters family. Peters Hardware is located at 12118 East Sprague, enter off of Pines and First. We have all the quality home products that you need, including quality paint now, where we can match any color that you want. We're here for you for all your home needs. Come on by to Peters Hardware in Spokane Valley.
Well, welcome back. I have, as I said before, Craig Chamberlin here from formerly with the Sheriff's Department, now your full-time job is running for sheriff.
Yes, sir. That is true, Kent.
Have you learned anything in the last couple weeks?
I can tell you it's a whole different world. It's a whole new arena for me.
Yeah.
Definitely a learning curve.
Yes.
Which I expected. You
Yes,
know, I knew
yes.
there would be.
Right.
Out of my 25 plus years of being a police officer, 23 and a half of them were spent on the road.
Oh, okay.
In the game from the first whistle to the last whistle.
Yep. I remember when we went out to do some safety vignettes, if you will,
Sure.
and so forth, you just talk so easy and so forth, and some of the issues that are out there, some of the safety tips. I want to go through some of the things that were brought up by our current sheriff and give you a chance to respond to that. So if I can, I'll go ahead and start. First of all, I think a lot of it centers around the letter that you wrote for your daughter's coach out there, and according to the letter, you didn't know of any legal issues. However, in the letter, you did say some things about that. How can you not and then do it?
Yeah, and I understand completely where you're coming from,
Yeah.
and I understand reading the letter where that question would pop up.
Okay.
To be honest, the request was made via a written letter by my daughter's former volleyball
Okay.
club volleyball coach.
Okay. The coach himself.
The coach himself
Okay.
to me. And I actually forgot about the letter. And it wasn't until a couple months later that I remembered while I was doing bills, thought about it, sent him a text message to see if he still, wanted me to write the character reference letter.
Right.
And he said he did. And so I spent probably 4 minutes writing the letter. And I know that there's one sentence in the letter that I wrote terrible, that I can understand where the confusion
Okay.
and where that thought process would come from.
Okay.
And I should have expanded on what I meant by the statement that I made in the
Okay.
letter. I was in a hurry. I didn't. And unfortunately, it ended me up in the position I'm at right now.
Yeah, and bad for everybody, really, when it comes down to it. Was part of the investigation into this person? I don't know his name, and I don't think we want to go there
Right.
anyway. Is part of that? How much of that investigation did you know? I guess is my question.
I knew absolutely nothing about the investigation, the type of investigation, who was investigating it, where if it was in the judicial system process,
Okay.
if he'd have been accused of something. It was obvious from the way he wrote his letter, which was very vague, that he was having some legal issues.
Okay.
I don't know if that's verbatim what he said,
Yeah.
but basically that's what it boiled down to. But it didn't specify what the issues were, what the status was, if he
Right.
was, being accused of something that he was trying to, receive the letter for. I had no idea where it was in any phase of the investigation, or at that point, if an investigation was even taking place.
Okay, and the fact is, we often get asked to write a letter of recommendation or something like that for somebody.
Sure.
We know enough, maybe sometimes, to be dangerous. I mean, we have an impression, oh, he's a good guy, or a nice lady, and those kinds of things. And unless you, for some reason, have knowledge that it was a sex crime investigation, so you didn't know anything was going on with.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not, Kent. 7+ years ago, I went through a nasty divorce, which,
Okay.
which the sheriff, which Ozzie has spoken about, and my issues that went along with that divorce, which were very difficult, and I went through a very hard
Divorce
time.
is never easy.
It's
one of the
something-
most stressful times in life,
It
I'm
is.
told.
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy if I had one. It's something I went through that I learned from. At the time, it was the worst time of my life.
Yes.
Worst experience I'd ever been through. But you know what? I wouldn't change a thing for it. The way it ended up and the man that I am now.
Okay. In what ways?
wouldn't-
How has it changed you?
I wouldn't change it because I could never imagine my 3 daughters and I, because you have to understand, going through the process over about just over 7 years ago, after I dealt with, issues that I was dealing with a divorce that I did not have scripted in my plan for life. This is a woman I had been with for 19 years,
Right,
and
right.
married to for 17 years.
Right.
And so, what I said I do,
It's
I did.
the last thing you expected to
I
have
did
happen.
forever.
Yeah.
So after I dealt with my issues, my attorney said about 2 months into the divorce issue, the back and forth to the office, my attorney told me that we were going to go for custody of my then young teenage daughters.
Okay.
My youngest, I believe, was just turning 13
okay.
during that time. And I specifically said, I asked my attorney, who was fantastic, I asked her, I said, I hear in Washington State that men never receive primary custody of their children.
It's very difficult, at least.
And in words that I can't repeat on your show, she told me to tell those people to go to law school and to then come talk to her. So it's one thing I'm very proud of is, I went through the worst time of my life. Yeah. It was horrible. I would not wish it on anyone, but you know what? I wouldn't change a thing for it now. Yeah. If you would have asked me then, and you would have said,
would have gotten a quick answer, wouldn't I?
if you would have said, Craig, 2022, in March sometime, you're gonna, and even before that, years before this, you're really you're gonna learn from what you did and how it turned out. I wouldn't have had very nice or kind things to say to you. However, I did receive primary custody of my 3 then young teenage daughters, and my ex-wife's not a slouch by any means. Yeah. She's a labor and delivery nurse.
Okay.
So I was very proud of that. And, I raised those 3 girls. The 4 of us are we're completely best friends.
Yeah. I've seen pictures on Facebook with you and your girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
So
I couldn't.
It's obvious that
It is. And I could not imagine in my wildest dreams that we would ever be as close as we are.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been a team for the last 7+ years, and it's been outstanding. So
good.
that I wouldn't change for the world. And yes, I went through some difficult times, fixed myself, went on to raise those young teenage girls into now very successful.
I was going to say they've all got to be young ladies.
That
now,
they are
totally.
young ladies,
Yes.
and they're all doing extremely well, and I couldn't be more proud of them.
Good.
They're all daddy's girls, and we've had a blast. So that part of the equation, my relationship with my daughters has been, the best outcome
Good.
I could have ever dreamed of or imagined, or scripted.
Yeah, hard to get there though.
It was. It was.
And hard for them too.
Was.
Let's not forget that.
It's tough,
Unfortunately, a lot of it's going on. So they've got friends that have gone through that and so forth. But still, when it's you,
Yeah, it's tough
know?
because, I was the face of the department. I was Deputy Craig. I was on your show numerous times, for nearly almost 18 years. I was in, people's homes.
everybody knew you.
I was on their, I was at work. I was on their radio talking about traffic reports.
Yes.
I was on TV doing public service announcements. I was on television stations doing Ask Deputy Craig questions.
Sure.
And this went on for a very long time. And, during that difficult time of my life initially, when I was going through my divorce, it was tough because, had to come to work and put a happy
Yes.
Deputy Craig face on for interviews like this.
Sure.
And I was really hurting.
Hurting inside,
I was really hurting.
Yeah,
I was. And I think, going through that and coming out on the other end successfully, I'm very proud of. I'm very proud to say that, my daughters and I are, the tightest foursome you could see out there.
That's good. Wonderful.
And, I'm very, my career, until unfortunately I was, released on February 17th, I wouldn't change anything in my career. I had a fantastic time.
You always looked like you were enjoying what you were doing.
Love what I'm doing.
Yes.
I love to be able to take the younger men and women, especially because for me, I chose, there's a couple ladders. You can take a managerial ladder, or you can take a ladder where you stay on the field. For me, what I wanted to do, I wanted to stay on the field.
You wanted to be out with the people.
I wanted to be out with the
Yeah.
people. I wanted to be on the field from the first whistle until the last whistle in the game. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Wow. I'm glad to hear about you and your 3 daughters.
Oh man,
And
the light of my life.
I see
Ken.
you smile. It's
Yeah.
just, but I'm betting it also teaches you a lot, or has taught you a lot about what other husbands and wives are going through with the divorce. It's not easy. It's, because we've I sat with a friend in Los Angeles before we moved up here and went through his divorce. I had to tell him some things that he didn't know, and it's like, okay, we're having lunch camp before we go to court, and I'm having a second drink. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all had
Right.
friends, and if we haven't
Right.
experienced it ourselves and so forth, it's not easy.
It's not, and it for me it was pretty. It was interesting. It was a different dynamic for me because I have empathy and had empathy, for people
Right.
going through situations like that because I understand where they're at up here
Yeah.
and where they're at and how bad they're hurting right here.
Yes.
So I can put myself in their shoes.
Right.
And I can talk to them. And like I tell the younger recruits or the younger deputies, the younger men and women, the secret, especially in our profession nowadays, which is not, I mean, let's just face it. The reality is it's not the most sought out profession.
It's a lot about survival.
Out there.
Yeah.
I mean, 25 years ago, there were hundreds of people testing for 2 or 3 positions.
Right.
It's not remotely close to that, like that
Oh,
now.
I'd love to spend a couple hours talking with you about that because
Yeah,
we know some of the reasons why all of that is happening, and
and
it's shameful.
It is.
Okay?
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate. But then again, sometimes you do see things on a national scale, and as a police officer, you scratch your head, and you're like, the problem is you don't see the 10 minutes leading up to it.
No.
You just see that
The incident.
the moneymaker, that 10-second
Yes.
snippet. But you don't know what led up to that.
Yeah.
And if you saw, you might go, wow, that officer, that deputy, that trooper, they had a lot of self-control.
I was gonna
I
say.
wouldn't have been able to last.
I don't know how many times I've said, I just would have shot the damn guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you-
At some point,
And it's
I wouldn't
funny-
have taken the abuse.
And it's funny you say that you bring that up. I mean, I know you're joking around about the shooting thing, but I don't know one officer, one deputy, or one trooper that has ever wanted to go to work and get in a shooting.
No.
Ever.
No.
It's the absolute last thing. And
Yes.
I am so fortunate in my 25 plus years, I was never involved in a shooting. I'm so thankful for it.
Wow.
Because I ask people when I'm talking to them that, know a little bit about law enforcement, basically what they see on TV.
Yeah.
I ask people, I say, what do you think our biggest weapon is? And they're like, your gun. Your gun. It's hands down your gun. No, they couldn't be further from the
Probably talking.
this.
Yes.
Your mouth.
Yeah.
is your biggest weapon.
Cool
you
the
have.
situation down.
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, it's, going into what I call code red, going into a situation amped up,
Yeah.
not knowing what the situation is. I mean, sometimes, if it's very vocal and you can hear things are not going very well,
Right.
you have to go in
Yeah.
at that level,
Yeah.
and then you can bring things down. But you don't have to go in at
the
every
top level,
situation.
yeah.
No, you don't have to stay even. You can always be a notch above just in case.
Yeah.
But the secret I tried to teach the younger men and women was always make everything from your neck down, make it disappear. Make all those different tools, the uniform, the authority,
Yeah.
all that, make it disappear, make them look you in the eyes and talk to them like a human, talk to them like a person,
Yeah.
and see what's going on and see if you can help them.
And in some cases, they're waiting for that confrontation too,
They-
which only ramps it up and makes it
Right.
worse. I want to ask a couple of questions, and we'll get into this. One of the things that was brought out a couple of weeks ago was that you were informed about the that you were under investigation. I guess this would be last fall for 3 months prior to your termination. Is that true?
I don't know the exact time frame.
Okay.
And I don't have the dates written down. So, if that's what was said, then I have no reason to.
Were you offered an opportunity to resign versus which would be much easier for you now?
Yeah.
But
Well, it went it went in this last investigation. It went a couple ways. Initially, I was told by my union president that I was going to be fired.
okay.
So I brought my vehicle and all my department issued equipment to the police station,
Okay.
to the Valley Police Station,
Okay.
because I was told you're going to be fired. And when we got there, it was, well, you're going to be offered the opportunity to either resign or be fired. And then I don't remember how the transition, because it's been a little while,
Yeah.
actually took place.
Well, there's a lot going through you at that point too. I can only imagine.
There's a lot. There's
Yeah.
a lot going through me. But then it changed to, I'm not sure, from the sheriff, from my association rep, saying that the sheriff was not sure what he was going to do.
Okay.
And that was the last meeting prior to the final meeting where I
Okay.
was terminated.
Okay. So you had that meeting, then you had another meeting later.
Yes, the final meeting where I was terminated.
Okay.
Yes.
The termination was primarily for false and misleading information. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
If I try to
Yes.
remember, I wrote
Yes.
some things down here and
Yeah.
so forth. Okay. How do you react to that? That's pretty strong.
It's very
You know?
strong, and to be quite honest, I take it personal, and I take offense to it because, like I told you before, I'm a father
Yeah.
that had primary custody of 3 young teenage girls who are now young, outstanding young adult women.
Yeah.
When I found out what the coach was being investigated for, I just about my stomach just dropped.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Um,
Yeah.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
At that point in time, some time had lapsed. So there was rumors.
Out of sight, out of mind.
There was rumors. There was speculation.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess
it was
there would
pretty-
be.
Yeah, because she played on the same team with the same base group of girls.
Okay.
For 2.5 seasons. 2020 was a half season for COVID.
Yeah.
So based on what the charge was that he was facing, looking back, nothing remotely close to what the charge was ever seen, was ever
You never
a
suspected.
topic. No. In club sports is almost 24/7, 365, and it's a lot of one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it was something that was never brought up in 2.5 seasons. It was what
You would think you might pick up something.
There was nothing. There
Yeah.
was never a topic. There was never anything that made the hair on any of the parents,
Okay.
including mine, made the hair on the back of our neck stand up
Okay.
whatsoever in the least. It was the absolute last thing I could have imagined.
Because I can't imagine if you suspected something that as a father you wouldn't take some kind
Well,
of act.
and-
Forget that you have a legal
Right.
background and an
Right.
officer background. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's just.
I
you
mean,
know,
let's face it. We would
well,
go into overdrive, wouldn't we?
well, let's just look at some common sense. In being a parent, number one, being a law enforcement officer, if I were hearing, that, and this was speculation. This is people, speculating. Well, I haven't heard anything, but is this what happened? Is this what happened? I didn't interject myself into anything. There's because they're all rumors and speculations,
Yeah.
and that's not unheard of.
Yeah.
No one knew. I never knew anything. I did verify because I wanted to make sure that the letter was legitimate before I responded, that there was an investigation, and found out that there was an actual active, I shouldn't say active, but there was an there was an investigation.
This before you wrote the
taking
letter?
place. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And people have asked, well, because I call our sex crimes unit, okay?
Okay.
Because I'm thinking, there's these rumors going around, 18, 19-year-old girls. None of the parents of any of the players for 2.5 seasons have seen anything.
Certainly, I would have heard something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, like I said, common sense took me down that road to see, okay, is there something going on?
Yeah.
Did I know what? No. Did I divulge in and find out who the Spokane Police Department detective or officer was?
Okay.
Conducting the investigation was? No, I didn't. And based off what the coach wanted, there was never anything inappropriate.
Oh, okay.
Never anything that, got my attention.
You think your daughters would have said something, or daughter?
My daughter would have said something in
Yeah.
a heartbeat.
Okay.
Any of the players on the team.
So none of
would have
the
said
bells went off.
Nothing. Nothing. My daughter's only known me as a police officer. She would have. She would have told me in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
If she knew something or heard something. And nothing. I mean, there was nothing. It was all speculation, all rumor. Fact of the matter is, if I knew then what I know now, would I have written the letter? Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, I would not have.
So that's
Okay.
clear. That's loud and clear.
It's loud and clear.
Yeah.
Without hesitation. Of course I wouldn't have. How he was still coaching, the time frame of how the investigation, I don't have any information on. I did not look into it. I didn't find out who was doing the investigation.
Because those that need to do that are doing it.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to interject myself into whatever was going on.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. And then,
Well, you probably in some ways would be pulled off the case anyway, right?
well, it
With
would
the
be-
daughter involved.
Well,
I mean,
well, if if I would have looked into the investigation that I'm not part of, that I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm digging into Kent Adams
Yeah.
for no reason, just based off rumors
Yeah.
and speculation that, I'm hearing out on the streets,
Right.
and start digging into your personal history for no reason, I'm violating, policy. I'm violating your right to privacy.
Right.
Doing it, for absolutely no reason at all.
Right.
For no reason.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like I said, if I knew then what I know now,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I would not have written the letter. And to be brutally honest, I'm not very happy with the coach because I've known him since high school, his entire family. And for him not to tell me more about what he was going through
Yeah.
what the letter was actually going towards, what it was
kind
for.
of a false premise, right? Me and I letter. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I'd never, you know, we were associates. We went to high school, dude, hang out together.
Yeah.
The only time that I spent time with them was during the 2.5 seasons.
Yeah.
So do I blame him for everything? No. I don't know what he has going on in his life.
Yeah.
You know?
Hindsight's always 20/20.
It is,
you know.
But I'm not happy that he did not go into more detail, knowing what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And telling me what was going on, so I could make a decision based on what charges he was dealing with.
Yeah.
Whether or not I was going to write the letter, and obviously if I would have known.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Let's talk
Not
about
a
where you
chance.
are right now, because you've gone through 7 years ago a divorce, which was, as I said, one of the most stressful things you could do.
It's an uppercut by Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I've seen the list. I think we all have of what the worst stressors are for all of us. A divorce is either number 1 or number 2, something like that, and so it's right up there. Fortunately, after 54 years, I'm still married to the same.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I
Good
know.
for you.
Yeah, well, amazing for her. Yeah, for me to be that. Yeah, be that lucky. You're absolutely right. But here you are. You're getting ready to announce for sheriff. I assume that was not made in a decision in 3 or 4 days. I suspected, knowing you, that would be something that you'd want to do. Okay, because you've dealt well with the public and all that years ago. Everybody likes Craig, and so forth. How's all that hitting you right now?
Okay, first off, me announcing that I was running for sheriff is no surprise.
No,
This has been known for years.
right.
By,
You were going to run a few years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I chose not to
Okay.
out of respect for
The incumbent.
Ozzie.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. I was in his office and told him, out of respect for you, I am not going to run, but when you're done, I'm going in head first.
Okay. Yep.
So this wasn't something just out of the blue
No.
decision that I, came up with over a couple days or a week and decided, I'm gonna, he's not going to run, I'm gonna run.
Right.
This has been known not just by people in my agency, my family, friends,
Sure.
other people in other departments, with Spokane Police Department, with the State Patrol. It's been known for years.
Right.
This isn't something that I just out of the blue came up with.
Right.
It's been well known.
Yeah. Why do you want to be sheriff?
I have a vested interest in this community. I am homegrown.
Yeah.
I am loyal, and I am honest to a T. And we're going through, and people ask, why would you want to run for a position like that where, this profession is being scrutinized so bad over the last 6-7 years, probably.
Especially in the last
Through
2 to 3 years.
Yes,
Yes.
especially
Yes.
through social media.
Well, you've been a target.
Yes.
Of police and law enforcement have been
most
a target.
definitely.
And that's starting to change now.
It is.
Yeah.
I am a team player. Okay. A couple things that I don't like to hear is my department. Okay. If I'm elected as sheriff of your agency.
Yes.
Okay. And it's your deputies.
Right.
It's not my agency.
Yeah.
And it's not my deputies.
Right.
It's the communities.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm put in a position of trust to make sure that the agency is run efficiently and that you're providing the most public safety possible to the men and women and citizens of this community.
In a lot of ways, you're lucky that it isn't the city position, because you have a council that is doing the opposite.
Right.
Where you have at least currently 3, hopefully 5 at some point, commissioners who have been very supportive and so forth of of the whole department.
Right.
But we're seeing locally and nationally and so forth, this defund the police and everything else. Part of the blame, honestly, are on the judges and so forth too. You know, what was it the other day that someone's window was broken? It was the 225th break-in on the streets for this guy, and he's out the next day or that day.
Yeah. And that,
There's got to be
well,
consequences.
and that kind of leads me into probably something you were going to get to in a couple minutes.
Okay.
But since you brought it up, I'm going to hit you with it now.
Yeah.
I have three main issues of concern for me, and I'm going to tell you what those
Okay.
are. Okay. We have a mental health issue.
Yes, we
in
do.
our community.
Yes, we do.
Okay? And we have taken steps. We have therapists that ride with 7 combined with the sheriff's office as well as Spokane Police Department.
Okay, great.
Is
that helping?
From Frontier Behavioral Health, they're outstanding.
Okay,
They are.
okay.
They are. They free us up on the calls that, maybe not so much a suicidal call. Those type of calls, you do want to have extra people there.
Well, you want to have an
just in
expert
case.
expert who can help with that.
Yes,
You know,
yes, but
you're
those-
not trained in mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
The therapist, it was a fantastic idea
Okay,
to
good.
put those
That's
folks
good to
out
know.
there in the cars. Because they take the load off some of the less dangerous type mental health
Yes.
calls.
Yes.
To where, it may be a situation where
Of getting them help.
Exactly. But more times than not, you do want to have an extra unit just in case.
Yes, yes.
Because nobody has a crystal ball,
Nope.
and things happen in a split second,
Yes.
and you need to make a decision on what you're going to do in that
Right.
split second.
Wow.
So mental health issues, the homeless population.
Yes.
Okay, that's and these aren't in order of importance.
No.
These are just my 3 topics that are great concern
Yeah.
to me.
Again, we have a city council that does nothing but point fingers.
Well, and hold that thought, because I'm
Okay.
going to get there.
Oh, okay.
The homeless population.
Yes.
And it's
Which is made up of mental illness and drugs.
It is, well, and you are just, did you read you do have a crystal ball.
Well, I
The
kind of
homeless
stay up on what's going
population,
on
you
too.
do.
Yeah.
And my third issue and my third talking point is criminal activity / drug usage.
Yes.
So those are 3 separate topics, but the reality of it is a couple things.
Yeah.
For one, those things branch off and eventually they all come back together
Yeah.
into one single ball.
Yeah.
They're all interrelated in some way,
Yeah.
shape, or form. Are there people with genuine mental health illness that were born with it? Absolutely.
Yes.
And the majority of those people, in my experience,
Yes.
are either in group homes,
Yes.
or they're at a facility like Eastern State Hospital,
right.
Or Western State Hospital. However, I can
Or the
say,
state legislature.
or,
Sorry.
or-
Sorry, you
said that, not me.
You set me up on that.
You
No,
said
I'm
that,
kidding.
not me.
Yeah.
But unfortunately and sadly enough, the mental health issues that we deal with on the street with people, with folks that are also more times than not homeless.
Yes.
Um,
And using drugs
and-
too.
more times than not, using drugs. And the last time I checked, buying cocaine, buying heroin, buying Mexies, getting these drugs with this extremely dangerous chemical called fentanyl.
Yes.
Which scares me beyond.
Should scare everybody.
It should.
Yes.
Because it does not take. The stories I could tell you about, one in particular that stuck with me months ago, it was a young girl in her 20s. And I was taking her to jail for a drug warrant. And I was, I like to talk to these people.
Right.
I like to communicate.
Calm them down too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to treat them with respect until they dictate
Otherwise.
it's time not to be treated with respect, okay? But I like to have conversations with these people, especially, you know, well, with all of them. But with this girl, she was homeless, and she was a drug addict. Her, you know, and her addiction was heroin. And I'm like, do you know, I mean, how dangerous it is? And she was young. She wasn't even 30 years old yet. And she's like, absolutely. She's like, I've been out 5 times. I'm like, okay, what do you mean out? She's like, well, they were laced with fentanyl. I was dead. I said, is that not enough to make you utilize resources that are available to you to help you get off that addiction, to get away from that addiction? She said, not really. I love it. You know, I'll probably never stop. She said, one of the times I got lucky because I came back to on my own. She said, however, the other 4 times, luckily, I had friends with me that had Narcan that were able to bring me back, which you can buy over the counter now. So, so the number of overdose deaths due to drug usage, I don't think it's nearly as high as it actually is because of the fact that these folks can get Narcan. You know, and you know, hopefully, like for one of, you know, an officer or deputy, you know, towards the end of my prior to February 17th, the days of me looking through small little canisters, anything like that, those days are gone. Those were done. I'm not going to risk, especially if I'm alone. Okay. And I get exposed to it, you know, whether it's a powder form, a granule form, I touch it, whatever it might be. And I don't have a partner there because I'm going down right now and I need it.
Is that the fentanyl you're talking about?
Yes.
It's that dangerous.
It's that
the
dangerous.
dust from it?
It is that dangerous.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't realize. I knew it was bad,
Yes.
but I didn't realize. I thought you had to like take one of those blue pills you see.
No, those are called Mexis, and what those do, it's a stimulant, and the way well, I won't explain to you how they use it, but those are laced with fentanyl.
Okay.
And I was asking her about the heroin, and she said, oh, you have the option to buy fentanyl laced heroin or just, you know, regular heroin, depending on, you know, how high you want to get that day. And I'm like, you know, these aren't pharmaceutical grade, you know, drugs. They're not made in a pharmacy. These are made, you know,
in a batch somewhere.
Yeah, in some vat, in some, you know, some
come in from Mexico or somewhere.
Exactly. You have absolutely no idea what you're introducing to your body.
How do we prevent this?
It's a great question. You know,
as someone who's, I know you've talked to kids in schools and things like that in the past as part of your job and so forth, but how do we, I'm a grandfather, all my youngest is 41, okay, so she's an old lady at this point, but I've got grandkids from 8 until 22, okay. How do they start as they have, my kids have kids and my grandkids start getting married and have kids and so forth. I remember drugs back from my day of high school, and so it's nothing today.
No.
I mean, we talked about, you know, so-and-so had a joint yesterday. It was a big deal. We could point out the 5 in this high school, right? It's not like that anymore.
It's not remotely like that. And, you know, for me, and I don't have all the answers, okay, by any means. If I had all the answers, I would be a
I expected
very
you
wealthy
to have
man.
all the answers.
You know, and if you, but if you speak with someone that thinks that they have all the answers and they know the answers to everything, you better run as fast as you can.
But what can we as parents and grandparents do?
You know, for me personally, education.
Okay.
Don't sugarcoat it.
Okay.
Show them the results of what these people using these drugs, how they're using these drugs, whether it be intravenous, whether it be, you know, they're smoking it, taking it in pill form.
Right.
Showing them reality of how these people are taking it and how they end up.
Yeah.
You know,
and some pictures maybe of beforehand too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, look at this young man, you know, and his 8th grade picture, you know, he's a phenomenal athlete. And then, look at him, 2 years after he graduated from high school, the deterioration, the mental illness that he's now developed from basically cooking his brain. And it's sad, but my biggest, the best way to combat that is, like I said, for me, in my opinion, don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't say, this could have, people are going to say things, or, to try this or that. And, no, show them actual photographs. Show them actual, it's not that hard to Google things. You can Google anything, and show them the effects. And I love that the part that you said about, the photograph, here's this healthy 8th grade young kid, young boy, young girl. And here,
Star of the basketball team, and got all the girls, or got all the boys, or whatever.
Now look at them 2 years after they, if they graduated from high school, look at them now. And which leads me to, you were doing this. You were doing a lot of this.
Yeah.
That's a big issue for me, okay? Because we have mental health issues.
Yes.
We have agencies, organizations like Frontier Behavioral Health.
Yes.
Right? We have drug criminal activity, okay? And you have people that are mad because this person's been arrested so many times, and they're still out of jail. You have the homeless population, why aren't you, giving them somewhere to go? Why aren't you taking them somewhere? Well, there are facilities, and if they're
but it's not just an overnight stay and a hot meal.
No,
that doesn't solve the problem, except for the moment.
It doesn't, and unfortunately, we're duct tape. But then it branches off into the judicial system as well. And then you talked about judges. They're let out of jail so soon after they commit all these, or the police. Why didn't you take that person that had a $250 warrant for failure to appear for a suspended driving ticket? And you want to honestly want to know the reason why? We're a taxi. What we're doing is taking them down to the jail so they can get printed, photographed,
and a meal.
They're given a new court date and time, and the odds of them showing up to that.
Well, we've read in the paper, seen on TV, the people that are put into jail, let out, and commit crimes walking away from the jail.
Yes,
that's got to stop.
And the thing,
our kids deserve better than that.
Absolutely. And what I would like to see is, and you've been doing it the whole time, is you're pointing fingers. And what we're doing right now out on the road is not working. Every single day, every shift, you're getting called for homeless people sleeping in front of a business door with garbage, with feces, with customers waiting to come in. They don't feel comfortable going out contacting those people.
My wife won't come downtown. She's not the only one.
And so you have issues like that. You have the issues of the mental health from the result of them using whatever illicit drug that they are using. You have the criminal activity from them. You forgot you left your briefcase on your passenger's side door.
It's gone.
The criminal element comes by, pops the window, grabs it. What is it, 4 or 5 seconds? They're walking away.
Up to 6.
Okay. What I would like to see is the leads or representatives of all these different organizations that you and I just talked about, and how you've been doing this the whole time that we've been talking, is to get together and come to some type of solution. The George units, those are the units that have the Frontier Behavioral Health therapists that ride with them. That's a start. That's a great, they are an outstanding resource for other deputies, other officers on the road, so they don't have to spend the entire time. If things are going good, then they can go off to the next call. But it's every day you're dealing with those types of calls with people passed out every morning, not once in a while, every morning head on the steering wheel.
I see it walking in.
Tinfoil, in the center console, a needle either stuck in their arm or sitting right next to them. What I would love to see, and I think what needs to happen, is the heads of all these different entities get together and try to brainstorm, come up with some type of solution that can deal with all these. Because, like I said, I have those 3 talking points, but they all sprout off, and it all comes back to, they're all related in one shape or fashion. And the biggest thing with those 3 talking points and all those different things that bring them back together, and having people with, authority, the heads of these agencies, all these, any agency that can get involved, that can help, get together, brainstorm, try to come up with a solution. However, the biggest issue is not one of them in there can be a person that says, I want to take the credit for this if this is successful. That's the biggest thing. It takes a village. It takes a village. That's why the community calling and letting us know about these issues is so vital.
Yeah, I've learned a lot in the last few years, and some of it's self-education, and we've had good people on who have talked about it. And I used to drive by and see the homeless begging and all of that, and my mind was going, that son of a gun, what is he? The more I've learned is he doesn't really, or she doesn't really understand the problem, because they're on drugs or they got mental health and so forth. Now I've come to the point where, what can we do to help these people? Really help them, not just give them soup in the bed. Okay. Yes, when it's really cold out, yes, I understand that. But that's not the solution. That's not the long-term. Don't we owe it to our fellow citizens? And that's who they are. They may not be paying the taxes, but we are. I want to get them some help. And there are, as you were just pointing out, various agencies around. I got to ask one question, because I know it's going to end up probably coming up in the whole political, this is a political year this year, if you hadn't noticed, as I meant saying that to somebody who's running for office. Jail. Do we need a new jail? Do we need to add to the jail?
We need a new facility.
Okay.
And I've seen the cost broke down, that it would be a $200 million investment to build this facility.
Okay.
Here's the way I would like to see it. First of all, it seems like that's a lot of money. It seems like an astronomical
more than I make a year, but probably
amount of money. I would like to see the breakdown.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, I would like to see it run as a jail, however, focused on mental health issues, with people with mental health issues. That means that there would have to be people
that get help right away.
People from those different organizations like Frontier Behavioral Health, physicians, people that can actually, go in there and they can, decide whether or not, through the transition phase or through the triage phase, if they have legitimate, mental health issues, if it's drug related. I would like to see it focused, run as a jail, okay?
Right. You're still going to have the jail.
You're still going to have the jail aspect to it, run as a jail, but focus more for people with mental health illness, because like we talked about before, those 3 talking points all come around. And if you can at least maybe take one of those out of the loop, maybe you can make a difference. And I think focusing it more treating it as a jail, focusing it on a mental health facility, and leaving the current jail for bad people. The people that are going and doing the drive-by shootings.
They need to do the
stabbing.
time.
The people that are bad people. That are going around doing these things for whatever reason that they say.
One of my favorite charities is the Union Gospel Mission. And I love it when I see on Facebook and other social media, and we've had some on our programs too. In fact, I had a gal on who had gone through all kinds of stuff, and me, I'll go ahead and say, can you just maybe say a message to the community of what this has meant to you and your
Right.
life? And she did, right? Looked right in the camera and talked about it. I see people like that have improved their lives, improved the lives of their kids. You know, some of them have 3 girls,
Yeah.
you know, and have kids at home and so forth. And they're so pleased that they've now go to work and they've gotten a car
Right.
and they're getting stuff for their kids. I don't see too many people who say, I love what I'm doing to be mentally ill or on
Yeah.
drugs.
Yeah.
I don't see that. We've got to get more people like that
Yeah.
to that stage.
You know, and the
So we owe it to our fellow
we do.
citizens.
We do. And you know, I mean, in that the new the facility that
Yes.
we're talking about,
Yes.
the $200 million bill or whatever it would cost,
Could work on that.
you know, focusing on that, treating it as a jail, but focusing on the mental health aspect, you know, maybe just grabbing one of
Yeah.
those,
Yeah.
you know, facets out of that vicious circle.
Yep.
Maybe that can change that person. You
Absolutely.
know what? And if
And it
in
changes
6
their
if-
brother or sister or their
Yeah.
kids.
and you know what? If it changes one person
Yeah.
in 6 months and they turn into a success story, is it worth it?
We've won.
You know,
We've all won.
Absolutely. You know, and that's why we're here, because those of us in the most important division of any police agency patrol
Yes.
on the street,
You're on the street.
boots in the ground.
Yeah.
That is the most important division of any police department
Yeah.
in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
The sad part is 9 times out of 10, we are duct tape. We're a short-term fix.
Yeah.
That's why
You've
for me-
eliminated the problem for the rest of the evening, and that's it.
And that's all it is.
Yeah, it comes back. They or someone else come back the
It
next
does.
night.
But you know, if you can actually, like I talked about before, excuse me, you know, communicate with these people, talk to these people. You know, I don't know how many times I can tell you, not that I'm super cop by any means, but people
I
just
never thought so. Sorry.
Thanks, Nick. And I'm not. I'm comfortable talking to people and learning why they choose the lifestyle that they choose.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool, you know, years later, seeing someone, a man or woman, and you're
Yes.
like, see him coming up towards you, and you're like,
Is that Bill from years ago?
Yeah, face rings a bell, but you know,
Yeah,
whatever. And they
yeah.
come up and they say, "Hey, Deputy Chamberlain," or whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you, when you arrested me for, you know, meth 8 years ago, you changed my life.
Yeah.
You know, I got clean.
Yeah.
I went through the whatever court program they
Right.
had to go through.
Right.
I have a job. I have a house. I have a car.
Yeah.
I pay my bills.
Yeah.
I'm a productive citizen in the community.
I love
And that doesn't just happen to Craig
No.
Chamberlain.
No.
That happens to officers all the time. That is the biggest reward you could possibly have.
Now we've gone on for about 6 hours here.
Yes, we have.
I know that's difficult for you and me to keep things short. So
Yes.
yeah.
I hope my truck doesn't have a ticket on
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
bad out there.
Do you know anyone at the police department? I'll just open it for anything you want to say. This is your time to say whatever you want to say. If you even want to look in the camera, it's over there. But I just don't want to end without you having a chance to, because you are running for some kind of position, aren't you?
I am running for the sheriff of the citizens of Spokane County. I have, like I told you before, and we pretty much have went over
Yeah.
everything that's important to me. I have a vested interest in you as the citizens of this county, of, you know, you being able to go out to your car, come home at night and feel safe.
Yeah.
And not have to worry about, you know, geez, am I going to get home and is my man door going to be kicked in? There's all kinds of different things you can do and that you can ask law enforcement about to make yourself, make your property, make
Safer.
your vehicle safer.
Yeah.
And they're things that you just take for granted and you think, wow, that would be a very easy solution to not provide such an opportunity for the criminal element. And what I can tell you, I'm homegrown. I'm not going anywhere. I'm 51 years old. I have a passion and I have a fire to make this community, our community, the safest community that I possibly can with your deputies and your department.
If people want more info, where can they go?
They can go to my webpage, Craig at deputycraig.com,
Okay.
or my Facebook page, Deputy Chamberlain at gmail.com.
You're getting all social media stuff, aren't you?
You know,
Welcome to the 21st.
oh boy,
So people ask me how I do what I'm doing because, you know, of my age and everything. And I say I have people under 30 that work with me.
Yeah.
So
it's this. I found out that this campaign is a definite full-time job.
Yeah.
You know, last night I was home at 11, up at 6 this morning, and I have to honestly look at my phone to see what's next.
I hear you. I hear you. In fact, you were scheduled to come in this morning and couldn't, but
Had
moved
another
it to this afternoon. So
And,
thank you for doing that. For
thank
being
you.
flexible.
Thank you
okay?
for the opportunity, and for the citizens, thank you for taking the time to listen to what's important to me, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And it would be my honor to serve the community and the citizens of Spokane County by leading your sheriff's office.
Well, thank you for watching. Watch next time on our station, Spokane Talks Media, where news really does matter.
Thank you for tuning in to the Pulse of Spokane. A new episode will be released every Friday. Until then, have a good day.